जय श्री राधे। सब वैष्णवों को जय श्री कृष्ण, सादर और सब प्रेम जय श्री कृष्ण. Today is day 80 of the readings of the 252 Vaishnava disciples' biographies. And Varta 59, the story of one dhobhi who lived in Gopalpur or Jatipura. Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Tamasi disposition who belongs to the Antaragrihagata group of gopis. In the eternal Leela, their name is Sri Devi, who manifests from Manmatmodu and is thus a form of her divine loving sentiment. One day, Chandrakala called Sri Devi and said to her, "O Sri Devi, go to Sri Thakurji and tell him that Sri Chandravadiji is missing him a lot. Be quick." Sri Devi replied, "Right now my mother is calling me and so I will have to go there." Chandrakala said, "Sri Thakurji is in Saurabh Kunj at this time. It is not far, so please go there first, give him the message and then carry on. Give Sri Thakurji this pan bida that Sri Chandravali has sent for him." Sri Devi set off, taking the pan bida with her. She went to Saurabh Kunj. When Sri Thakurji saw her, he said, "O Sri Devi, how is it that you have come here today?" Sri Devi replied, "O my lord, please today fulfill my heart's desire. I have been worshipping for you for a long time. Please allay my burning desire." Sri Thakurji smiled and Sri Devi thought that Sri Thakurji was pleased with her. She herself ate the pan bida that she had carried on behalf of Sri Chandravadiji and began to embrace the Lord. At this moment, Chandrakala came there and saw what was going on, and Sri Devi saw that she had seen her and so ran off to another corner out of fear. However, juice from the pan bida that she'd been chewing had dripped from her mouth onto Sri Thakurji's clothes, and Sri Thakurji was not pleased about this. Chandrakala scolded her, saying, "You did not do what I sent you here for. What is this you have done? Every second Sri Chandravadiji is getting sadder in her separation, so why have you taken so much time and not completed your mission? Apart from that, your reddened saliva dripped onto Sri Thakurji's clothes, and he will have to take the time to change them. What you have done is most inappropriate. Therefore you will fall into an inferior womb." Sri Devi began to tremble. She fell at Chandrakala's feet to beg forgiveness, but Chandrakala just said, "Only the Lord will be able to forgive you." Thus she was born into a family of dhobis or washermen in Gantoli near Jatipura. When he grew up, he began to live in Gopalpur itself. He took initiation of the Lord's name from Sri Gosaiji and began to perform the Seva of washing the Lord's clothes. Sri Gosaiji made sure that he regularly received his packet of prasad. Part 1. This dhobhi washed the Lord's clothes, and he did this very, very carefully. At one time, when Sri Gosaiji was in Natadwara or Jatipura, one day after completing the Lord's morning services and after partaking of prasad, he went to see Govind Swami, who lived in Kadamkandi. Then he went to the Harji lake. There he noticed this dhobhi washing Sri Govardhanathji's clothes. He saw that the dhobhi was washing them very, very carefully, with the utmost attention and very lovingly. He was not bashing them onto a rock, as was the usual way of the dhobis. Sri Gosaiji approached him and asked, "Why are you washing these clothes by hand? Why do you not bash them on a rock?" The dhobhi replied, "O great Maharaj, these clothes touch the Lord's body, holy body. How can I bash them on a rock? This is why I wash them by hand." Bhav Prakash. Here it is taught that these garments of the Lord are really so many forms of devotees in the Lord's spiritual realm, and so they should never be treated with such cruelty. Part 1 continued. Hearing these words of the dhobhi and having seen the efforts that he put into washing those garments properly, Sri Gosaiji felt most pleased. Sri Gosaiji told him to ask for some reward, since he was so happy with him. The dhobhi asked him, "Please grant me liberation and let me be worshipped on this earth with great pomp and ceremony." Sri Gosaiji said, "So be it." Bhav Prakash. It was thus that he asked for a most inferior reward. Why? Because that was the nature of the inferior birth into which he had been sent, and so his intelligence was also compromised. He asked for a very insignificant reward. In the eternal Leela, he had been one of those gopis who had not managed to get out of their homes in order to go and meet Sri Krishna in the forest. Therefore they still harboured material natures and unfulfilled desires, and these are reflected here when he expressed his material desires. Part 1 continued. Sri Gosaiji returned home. Some time later, the dhobhi left his body. He attained the liberation of absorption into the Lord's form. Part 2. Once Chacha Harivamsji and another Vaishnava were travelling to Gujarat. On the way, they came to one large village and set up camp there. They bought supplies from a trader, came outside the village, found a place where water was available, and there cooked for the Lord. And after the offerings were complete, he partook of prasad. Then they came back to the village and sat down at that tradesman's shop. It was towards the end of the day, and many people were coming and going. The tradesman shut the shop and was leaving. Then Chachaji asked him where he was going and where all these people were going and who was worshipped in the local temple. He replied, "This is the king's deity, and it is an extremely rich temple. The Thakurji has many ornaments. They are all very expensive. The Lord's podium is of gold encrusted with jewels, and the cloth that swaddles it is the finest muslin. It has trimmings of elephant pearls, and there are superb door hangings. All the vessels are of gold. I have heard that there is more wealth too. Come on, let's go and see. You must have had the holy sight of the Lord in many temples, but you could not have seen one like this." The Vaishnava who was with Chachaji said, "Let's go and see the object of this man's praise. We won't lose anything by having a look. It is the Lord after all." That Vaishnava used much persuasion, and Chachaji said, "Okay, you go." The Vaishnava said he would prefer if he also came, and after more persuasion, the pair of them went to have a look. There they saw an extreme amount of wealth. Then the king performed the arati ceremony with a gold plate from his palace, and many instruments were playing and many people were standing there. The Lord was dressed in that very heavy bejewelled clothes. As he saw the Lord, Harivamsji shook his head and said, "This must be the work of that dhobhi." The king had espied Harivamsji shaking his head and ordered his personal servant to bring both of the travellers and put them in a cell. The servant marched them into a cell and locked the door, telling them that the king had some business with them. Harivamsji said to the other Vaishnava, "See, you insisted on going to see a Thakurji belonging to another path. We came to this temple, and this does not please our Sri Thakurji. Therefore he has arranged for us to be locked up. Anyway, this is all okay. Sri Gosaiji is our true guide who reigns above us. Still, we have met with the immediate results of our actions." Bhav Prakash. This story reveals that one should never go to the temple of a Sri Thakurji of another path. One should not go to see them, nor ever have prasad there, because doing so consists anyashray, or taking spiritual refuge in another. Sri Vallabhacharyaji has written in his Vivekadharya Ashray treatise, Wisdom, Perseverance and Refuge, it is forbidden to go to offer worship to any other or to pray to them for any required result. A Vaishnava should avoid anyashray in every way. There is no offence equal to taking refuge in another. Anyasya bhajanam tatra swato gamanameva prarthana karyamatrapi tato anyatra vivarjayet. A Vaishnava should avoid anyashray in every way. There is no offence equal to taking refuge in another. This is where we will conclude our reading for today. So Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna, Aaj ke Anand ki Jai, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.